Hey, what's going on, everyone? So I hope everyone has had a good week. During the Facebook Live today, I know a lot of times, let me get rid of these notifications. Tim, how are you doing, man? I got to do a podcast with you maybe next week so we can kind of go over your story and your journey of how you lost like 60 pounds and all that stuff. I'm actually going to do a lot of shout outs for clients today. I know a lot of times on these lives, I'm giving out, information on holistic health and how to, aesthetically improve your physique and all that stuff, and kind of focusing on my journey as well. But I want to actually spend a lot more time. Brian, good to see you. Congratulations on getting out of corporate America. So, like, that's a huge move. And I think a lot of, Victor, good to see you. And I think a lot of people are stuck in that trap, of working more and more, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately, it's really hard to optimize your mental and physical health in that environment. And as I mentioned in a lot of lives and chatted with you often, is just on damage control your whole entire life. They go on from one doctor to another, from one boot camp to another, but still always have weight challenges and health challenges of various sorts because they never kind of change the environment that led to all those issues. And oftentimes the work environment is not conducive to human health because it's way too many hours, way too much. Randy, good to see you. Way too many hours, way too much social politics, way too much pressure from the boss. Plus, like generally, a lot of people in that environment are very unhealthy themselves, not health conscious at all. And if they think they are, I guarantee you they're not. It's just their standards of what health and wellness are has lowered so much that the fact that they're living in pathology is normalized. It's an indication that it's a very sick environment, and obviously those people aren't going to get better. Brian, good to see you. Ben, good to see you as well. Good to hear from you as well. So I'm just going to give a lot of shout outs today, and then I'll kind of go back to hopefully interviewing a few more clients next week and also just talking about various other health points. So let's see what Brian has to say. Thank you. So very true. The system is meant to keep you stuck and blinded from healing yourself. The culture is too, yep, the culture is too toxic. Yes. And that's just because in America, we're kind of taught to, always be, striving for more. It's never enough. You got to go higher and higher, higher. You're never good enough. You're never productive enough, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, results speak for themselves. I quoted a lot. I don't have them right in front of me, but I quoted a lot of studies in the past lives. Damer, good to see you. Quoted a lot of studies in the past lives where 9 out of 10 Americans are right now metabolically unhealthy, which is freaking crazy. Okay, 9 out of 10 American adults, which is freaking crazy to think about it. 90% of Americans are unhealthy right now. 90%. In what's referred to as, the most prosperous country in the world, a lot of pretty much 9 out of 10 Americans are really hurting mentally, physically, metabolically. Just go ahead and step outside anywhere in America these days, and 9 out of 10 people you run into are full of obesity and disease, full of mental and physical pain. 9 out of 10. It's not 1 out of 10, not 2 out of 10, not 5 out of 10. Like 9 out of 10, 90%. That is freaking crazy just to even think about. So there needs to be serious changes that happen, and those changes always happen with, first and foremost, getting out of the swamp of mental and physical pathology that we refer to as society today, because the path is already proven to not work and to cause a myriad of misery and physical disease. Okay, so if you stay on that path, that's what you're going to get, most likely. Okay, 90% chance that's what's going to happen. So Raven, good to see you. David, thanks for jumping in as well. Brian, yep, the whole industry's worth. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Brian has a great story. He just left. I think he was working for like a very well-paying corporate job for like 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. And he had the guts to kind of step away because he noticed he was just getting more miserable and it was tougher. And that misery was kind of having an effect on his physical health. And it's kind of like a huge cycle because a lot of times people are like, they get into those environments for the biological safety of having a steady job, steady paycheck, being a corporate worker, et cetera, et cetera. But what ends up happening is in a long enough time frame, as I'm not going to go into it in this slide, but in a long enough time frame, what ends up happening is, you become miserable and overworked, et cetera, et cetera. And in short, what ends up happening is it goes back and it affects your actual biology, your physiology, and it makes you sick. And I used to do corporate lectures as well. And honestly, it's extremely rare to run into a healthy individual in a corporate environment. And I consider the hospital or the medical industry as a replica of that corporate environment. It's also equally rare to run into a very healthy medical doctor, a very healthy nurse, et cetera, because it's all run the same. They're all working themselves to death. They're all living off fast food, just medicating themselves because they refuse to change the environment and moreover the belief system that led them to find it acceptable to be in that environment to begin with. Which is, especially in the medical industry, fairly comical to me because what are you communicating to your clients? You're communicating to your clients that it's okay to work yourself to death. It's okay to be eating this fast food, et cetera, keeping yourself sick and as overworked. And of course, your clients are never going to get better, and they never do. Short of a car accident and emergency medicine, of course, and that stuff of that sort. And they never do, they never get better, and they just get more and more sick year after year, no matter how much drugs are pumped into these unfortunate people that don't know a better solution to their health, and kind of seek out help from people that are equally as helpless. Okay, if you want to see the sickest people on the planet, just go to a medical convention, okay, and you will run into all the doctors that are equally as sick and obese and overworked and run down as their patients, okay? And it's a pretty sad sight to see. So, Gary, good to see you. Kyle, thanks for jumping in. Okay, so I'm just going to give a shout out to a lot of our group members and my past clients. Some of them aren't clients anymore. They've already finished the program. And their success and a little bit of their background in terms of, their struggle, and maybe you guys can kind of see yourself in that struggle and how they're able to make it happen. Alvin, good to see you. And remember, a lot of these clients I've had during the peak of COVID, and they made amazing results just doing like band workouts at home and having a door pull-up bar. And I can guarantee you their results were far, far better than pretty much 99% of the people you see at the gym. They've actually made noticeable transformations. I posted their month-to-month progressions, even interviewed many of them in this exact group, okay? So you can see it's for sure, it's legit. They've made this progress. It's possible for them to do it. Some of them are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, okay? And they made amazing results in a fairly respectable amount of time, not like crazy, like years and years and years to see these results. Because guess what? We used a common sense approach. Kenji, good to see you. Haven't seen you or talked to you in a while. Hope all is well. Because we use a common sense approach that I use to keep myself healthy, that I got honestly from my grandmother. Like I told you guys, I was raised by my grandmother on an off-grid farm in Ukraine. And I learned just a lot of health principles from her. Ironically, a lot more useful information from her than I learned from many of my professors at the University of California, Irvine, which I did graduate, not that I'm bragging, but just to kind of indicate, which I did graduate with a high GPA in, but the information, ironically, that I received from my grandmother living on this off-grid biodynamic farm in terms of how to be healthy, how to achieve peace and happiness in your life, proved to be more useful than all of this academic BS, which it ends up being just academic BS for the most part, okay? Okay, so let's go down the list. So Tim Petro, he's actually in this call right now. He was an awesome client. I loved training him. It was remote. He contacted me during the peak of COVID. He was about 60 or 70 pounds overweight, 60 years old, and on a whole bunch of medical drugs. And it just kept getting worse and worse, and doctors kept putting him on more and more drugs. Zero emphasis from the medical community on behavioral change, on nutrition education, et cetera, et cetera. So we started work. He contacted me. I recommended that he reach out and do a free assessment first, free introductory assessment, which I do via Zoom with my clients. And we sat down and talked to him about, what he's struggling with, what his constraints are, where he is currently, where he's going through. After he decided that the program was right for him, we put him through a very comprehensive lifestyle assessment, also a comprehensive movement assessment as well. And then we kind of began to work from there. And remember, this is during the peak of COVID, okay? So the gyms were definitely shut down. You weren't allowed to go out in public places, in a lot of different places, et cetera, et cetera. I forget the exact rules. They vary from state to state too. But anyways, the idea is we're like very, very restricted. So we came up with a game plan to kind of work around those restrictions. And it wasn't a big deal because honestly, like, dude, it doesn't matter if you don't have a gym. Look at hunter and gatherers, okay? They're all, I guarantee you, they did not have a Bally's or 24-hour fitness gym membership, okay? They didn't even have a 401k. They didn't have medical coverage. They didn't have a life guru. They didn't have YouTube, Instagram, juiced out Instagram stars on who knows how many drugs they're taking just to maintain their appearance for the likes. They didn't have any of these resources, but guess what? They were all jacked all the freaking time. They're able to hunt huge game animals that are super dangerous without rifles, without hunting rifles. They had spears, arrows, like literally Neanderthals would run up to the animals. They didn't even have the idea of throwing the spear at the animals. They would run up to these huge animals and be able to kill them with their physical body, showing you how strong and functional and durable their mental and physical state was to be able to do that. And remember, they didn't have anything, no gym membership, remember, no supplements, no pharmaceutical drugs, no bogus medical industry, okay, no whatever, life coach, guru, 401k, life savings plan, and they did it. And for you guys that a common answer would be like, oh, well, they died at a very young age as well. Well, actually, they didn't, because if you take out child mortality, they lived into their 50s, 60s, and 70s in full health. And so did my grandmother, which went to live basically off-grid her entire life. She went to the doctors one time, to the hospital one time, and that's just to give birth to my mom, okay, which eventually obviously gave birth to me. And that's it. She never went to the doctors before. She literally lived off of just the food, the biodynamic food they raised on that farm, and just naturally lived in tune with the universe and with nature, which I took a lot away from with her. And she lived in full health until like 87, which is when she basically passed away, okay? So full health, her skin looked great. She was actually taking care of the homestead herself as well, so doing all that physical labor, et cetera, et cetera. And dude, that's an indication right there that everyone should have been able to stay in shape with COVID. She didn't have a gym membership either, obviously, okay? She's living off grid. Her gym membership was taking care of the animals, was taking care of, whatever needed to be taken care of on the farm, which is actually pretty extensive, okay? It's not just like, oh, you just work and blah, blah, blah. It's not like super crazy 8 hours a day of work, but you gotta maintain some of this stuff in a farming environment, okay? And you need a physical body to do so. But anyways, my point being is she didn't have this, and she still stayed in great shape. And I use her as an example a lot of times of what I need to do to achieve peace of mind. And more importantly, not that she was in good physical shape, which she was just like literally the only person I know, even to date, out of the one of very few people I know, even to date, out of all of the health experts and gurus I've run into, that has actually achieved peace of mind, okay, and serenity and peace in her life. I've never met anyone so much at peace as my grandmother, okay? Most people are, even in the health industry, just like very rushed, very anxious. They need to do this and that, et cetera, et cetera. They themselves are not that healthy, okay? And although they may be some of them may actually be very, very smart, the problem is they're stuck living in that swamp of physical and mental pathology, which unfortunately society has become these days. And they're kind of stuck in that system themselves. And what they're trying to do is use their intellect to damage control as good as possible, okay? Which isn't working. America is just getting sicker and sicker, okay? It's not working. And instead of using that intellect to figure out like how to get the fuck out of that swamp we're referring to as physical and mental pathology, we're referring to as society today, they're just marinating in there, living, creating a business to help other people also survive in that swamp, et cetera, et cetera. And you can see how it kind of goes in circles. And obviously, it benefits them, okay? It benefits them from one reason is, first of all, I just don't think they know any other way of life because they've been born and raised that way. I at least have like a good perspective of how life could be living off grid, completely disconnected from electronics, electricity in general, and just learning how to live close and in tune with nature. And I also have lived in cities, et cetera, et cetera. So I have that good comparison in the pluses and minuses of both systems. But a lot of people, they don't. They've just been born and raised in the matrix and they don't know any other form of life. So they create a business to sustain that. They also benefit from that because obviously people are not doing well in that system, and then they would have to seek out their help and obviously pay them, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can see it kind of ends up being like a very lucrative system for them. So Tim, yes, we're getting back to Tim. Sorry, you guys, I go on tangents. Michael, good to see you. I go on tangents all the time. So Tim, 60 years old, okay? No gym. He contacted me. We set up a game plan. And he was on a whole bunch of medical drugs, but I just call them drugs, okay, because that's what they are. Don't let the medical industry kind of wish-wash you by calling it medicine. It is a drug with a lot of very dangerous side effects when used for long periods of time. And a lot of times those side effects could be even more serious than the issue they solve themselves. And you see a lot of people, they start off on one pharmaceutical, 5 years later, they're on 3, then you need a few side effects starts happening. Then a few years later, they're like on 7. Sometimes I've seen people on, 10, 15 different medications, half of whom were just to counter the side effects of the first 7 medications, et cetera, et cetera. So we came up with a game plan, and all he had were bands and a small kind of wooded area near his house. So literally we just did nature walks and band workouts. And then we focused also on changing a lot of lifestyle variables and changing his nutrition, obviously. I got him on organic food. There's so much more detail to this. I'm kind of skimming over it, just giving a Cliff Notes version. But we got him there 6 months later, down 60 pounds off of the bulk majority of those pharmaceutical drugs that the doctors kept them on for who knows how long, okay, with only adding more and more as time went on. And it's oftentimes so easy, guys. It's so easy if you just kind of live like a human being again, okay? Don't overcomplicate it. And don't let a lot of these fitness gurus, medical guys, overcomplicate what it takes to be healthy. It's actually pretty damn simple, okay? It's very simple principles that you need to do daily. And more importantly, kind of like what Gary mentioned in the comment, and what I mentioned many, many times on many of my lives, dude, you got to identify your core values in life. You got to identify deep down inside like who you are, because your core values are basically like a blueprint to where you need to go, and what you need to say yes to and what you need to say no to. So some of my core values, just to list them off the top of my head, are having the autonomy to work for yourself. I explained it in various other lives why this is important to me. Eating organic food or eating biodynamically raised food, being close to nature, having enough time to work out at least like 2 hours a day. Although I don't really work out 2 hours a day, but usually what I do is I work out for like 45 to 60 minutes. And then, I stretch afterwards for about 20 minutes. And then I do like a 30 to sometimes 40-minute meditation session. So that's really kind of like a 2-hour time span. And that's important for me to have that block of time and not feel rushed during that time. Some other, core values of me of having good quality water all the time, loving relationships, working remotely. I love working remotely. It saves so much time and saves so much headache and hassle of saving energy on dealing with various personalities in person, etc., etc. Javier, Benjamin, good to see you. Randy as well, Todd. And let me think of some other ones. Obviously, having like good sleeping patterns. I do enjoy playing video games from time to time. I enjoy reading a lot as well. I try to take at least, you know, 2 courses, sometimes 3 courses a year on continued education, okay, to help keep work interesting and also just to keep learning and provide a lot more value to my clients and help them get from A to B in an easier and easier way year after year. Let me block this call really quick. I have these scam people calling me more than pretty much anyone else. I don't know if anyone else gets that, but those guys are definitely annoying. So that's what sets the foundation, your core values. So make sure, it is Friday, you got the weekend. And if you don't know your core values, dude, it's all good. Just go out there and make freaking mistakes in life and be consciously aware when your body is telling you, like, this is not right for me. Like, I don't like this. I don't like this type of person. I don't like dealing with this type of personality. I would rather deal with this type of personality, et cetera, et cetera. And just write that down, because those are all signals and signs that your body and your spirit is telling you of where to go. And a lot of people don't listen to that. And that's why it sets them up in a cycle of pathology, mental and physical pathology, their whole entire life. And unfortunately, when you talk to a lot of these people and you ask them how they feel, they would tell you they're doing well. But then you look at them and they look terrible. They're many pounds overweight. They're on 2 to 3 different pharmaceutical drugs. And this is an indication of a lot of things, but it could be also an indication of cognitive dissonance. These people have been in this form of life for so long and they don't know how to escape it. So they justify and they trick themselves into believing it. That's what they really wanted from the get-go, which is super crazy. And it happens a lot, and I see it quite a bit. So with Tim's story, I'd love to interview him again. Chris, good to see you. Javier. With Tim's story, so just the perfect example. He didn't have a gym. He's 60 years old. We just had bands and nature walks. We didn't even do any running. It was literally just walking out in some forest he had near his house. Okay, 2 days a week of walking, 4 days a week of moderate to low intensity band workouts with just bands. And in a 6-month period, he lost 60 pounds. And obviously, every single biological marker improved in his body, because once you lose weight on any diet, your inflammation will go down in your body tremendously. And then once your inflammation goes down, all of your biological markers will improve, etc. So that's it. And it wasn't that tough, okay? And if he can do it at 60 with no gym and literally just some, I think the bands were like $15. Like, what's the deal with all these 20 or 30 or 40, 50-year-olds in the gym with a fully stacked gym not being able to make progress, okay? Most of the time, unfortunately, they can't admit to themselves that they just don't know what they're doing. And that's why they're going to continue to make no progress year after year, maybe see a little bit of teeny pathetic levels of progress here and there, but really just no change whatsoever. And you see these guys in the gym all the time. They're there 5 days a week, pushing it, like actually training hard and literally not changing. They look freaking the same year after year after year. And I'm like, dude, what is going on with these guys? Okay, so that's Tim's story. Obviously, Randy is in this chat as well. I just finished with him pretty much. He had an amazing transformation as well. And you guys can check out his pictures. He went from like a little bit overweight, nothing bad, but he went to super shredded at 59 years old in a span of 4 months, okay? We did have a gym with him in this case, but he was already working out even before he contacted me, like 4 or 5 times a week. I forget exactly. He can let you guys know. 4 or 5 times a week. He had an in-person trainer. Mural, good to see you. Mural is also another one of my clients. I think together we lost 30 pounds in a 3-month period. He had an in-person trainer already, and he was already working out a lot and eating healthy, but he just couldn't really go that extra mile. So once again, it all started with a very in-depth assessment. We did a Q&A, which was like 30, 45 minutes. We did a lifestyle assessment, which is about 40 to 60 minutes. Then we did a mechanical assessment, which is about like 40 to 60 minutes as well. We created a very comprehensive program for him. Then did a review of that program, which took about an hour. We did a bunch of follow-ups during the training course. I was always there to help him along the way. And 4 months later, down, I believe, I got to double check, but down about 20 to 25 pounds of body fat at 59 years old with no cardio at all. We're just doing 5 weightlifting workouts per week on an undulating periodization program. And that's it. And the workouts lasted about 45 to 60 minutes on average. Okay. So it wasn't anything crazy or anything. And I mean, dude, he looked shredded, and honestly, his abs looked better than even my abs looked at my peak. Okay. So once again, like where's the excuse for these 20, 30, 40-year-olds, even the 50-year-olds? These guys are, 15, Randy is 59, Tim is 60, making amazing progress seemingly overnight, et cetera, et cetera. So I also did an interview with him as well. So check out that interview. He goes into a lot more detail about exactly like what he did, what he had to change in his lifestyle, some challenges he had to overcome, et cetera, et cetera. So let me see here also. So also like another group member, Wolfie Harrison. So you guys can check him out as well. He actually had an in-person trainer. So Moral is mentioning here, he's actually a former client of mine. We trained together for like 3 months, and he lost about like 30 pounds in the meantime. And yeah, a lot of people, he mentioned that he saved a lot of money on my program. And this is true. Like, dude, I don't know how to get it into some people's heads. They just don't freaking get it. Being unhealthy is far more expensive than being healthy. The average American spends about $5,000 to $7,000 a year on medical expenses related to poor lifestyle and nutritional choices. You can get amazing coaching for that price, even half of that price most of the time, okay? Amazing coaching that would help prevent all that idiocy from the get-go, so you don't run into those problems to begin with anyways. And also, like, the average American spends about $8,000 to $16,000 a year on non-essential expenses, okay? So $8,000 to $16,000 a year, let's go on the very low end, $8,000 a year on non-essential expenses, then $5,000 a year on medical expenses related to poor lifestyle and nutritional habits. That right there is $13,000 every freaking year on maintaining like a silly lifestyle that's leading to obesity, disease, and your misery. And it's from these same exact people you hear him say like, oh, I don't have the money for coaching. I don't have the money for organic food. I don't have the money for this and this. Yeah, of course you don't, because you're too busy spending it on being, mentally sick, obese, and disease and full of disease. So of course you don't have the money to do that. So that's your choice. But yes, Morale, we've done podcasts on this before many times. Far cheaper to be healthier. And dude, just far better. You look better, you feel better, you actually have like a respectable sex drive. I don't know why I even need to sell this to people. It's obvious of the benefits of it, okay? It's just people have been living in, once again, like I mentioned, a swamp of physical and mental pathology for so long, they literally don't know any other way of life. And it's super sad for these people, super sad. And unfortunately, just the bulk majority of Americans are living like this day in and day out. So Wolfie Harrison, yeah, he lost 40 pounds. I believe we trained for 4 months together, and he lost 40 pounds in that time frame. He also had an in-person trainer, but he wasn't getting anywhere. Wasn't losing any weight at all. So he reached out to me. Once again, it all really starts with that in-depth assessment. None of that BS 10 to 15 minute chat you get at your medical doctors, and then they don't see you for like 3 or 4 months and they forget who you even are by the time you return. Those are bogus. First of all, upon first meeting a client, even if they're a healthy client, it should take at least like an hour, hour and a half to do a proper assessment with this person. For me, I try to spend at least like 2 to 3 hours with a person at least. And that's presuming they're actually like either healthy or fairly healthy. If they have a lot more pathologies, it would take way more time. So whenever you go to a doctor, a trainer, or a chiro, and you meet them for the first time and they're like, oh, they just chat with you for a quick 5 minutes, even like 20 minutes, dude, you got to get out of there and go find someone else and someone that actually cares about you, because there's no way, no freaking way you can gather enough information from a person to be able to come up with a comprehensive solution to their problem by just chatting with them for like 5 to 10 minutes, 20 minutes. No freaking way. I have 14 to 15 years of clinical experience with a predictable track record of getting people from A to B in a very predictable, streamlined manner. And you can see the myriad of testimonials on my website. And that's just like a very small portion of the clients that actually let me use their pictures and progressions on a public website, okay? So that's just how it's done, and that's how it needs to be done if you want to get good coaching. I'm not saying I provide the absolute best coaching in the world. There are far more competent people, but it all starts with an in-depth assessment. Every single one of my, every single person that's like respectable in any field, Stuart McGill, low back pathology researcher, best low back pathology researcher in the world, in my opinion. Dude, his assessments last just 3 hours. And that's just with the lower back. That's like just those 5 vertebrae in the surrounding tissue of the lower back. And that takes 3 hours to come up with a comprehensive solution and get to the etiology of what precise diagnosis of what exactly is causing this person's back pain, for example. Paul Chek is another great example. His assessments last who knows how long, but anywhere between 5 to 7 hours upon first meeting a client, okay? This is what needs to be done, and this is the type of quality service that you need to be asking your service provider, whoever they are. Just use common sense, man. I mean, how could you possibly get to know the person? Because remember, at the end of the day, what's happening is, in the bulk majority of cases, literally like 99.8% of cases, it's the person hurting themselves. They are participating in a behavior, lifestyle, and nutritional choices that are leading to a specific issue, A, B, C, fill in the blank, okay? So you have to get this person to stop hurting themselves. That is the best thing a healthcare provider can do. And in order to do that, you have to really get to know the person and get to know what's driving them and why this self-abuse exists. Sometimes it's an easy fix. Sometimes it's extremely, extremely complicated. Okay, but either way, the only way to really get to know the person is the only way to get to know any person, whether in a dating environment, a business environment, is you got to talk to them. You got to get to know them. You got to get to know them in and out. You have to have different assessments in place to kind of look at the picture holistically and completely instead of just from a narrow tunnel vision perspective. So a lot of things to think about here. Okay, so Wolfie Harrison, I kind of mentioned, yes, we trained together for about 4 months, and once again, he had an expensive in-person trainer, didn't lose any weight, but in 4 months, we're shockingly surprised to lose 40 pounds of weight, okay? With actually doing less workouts than he was doing with the other coach. So Robel, he was a great client of mine as well. He's also a group member, a nurse. I believe we trained together for 3 months during the peak of COVID. Once again, no gym at all. We had no gym accessible. And he was busy working super crazy overtime hours at the hospital being a nurse because of, the overflow of COVID patients and just the normal flow of whatever patients they would be getting anyways. And over the 3 months, with just bands, no cardio at all, he still lost 30 pounds of weight, okay? 30 pounds of weight. And remember, I am talking about weight because it's the easiest to kind of explain and objectify. But James, good to see you. Steve. It's the easiest to explain and objectify, but remember, all these guys' biological markers 100% improved tremendously, okay? Their energy went through the roof. Obviously sex drive improved as well. You just feel overall better about yourself because you don't have this roll of belly fat hanging from your midsection. Max, good to see you. Stuff of that sort. So Rebel was working crazy hours. I forget the amount of hours, but working very long, stressful hours at the hospital. no gym at all, okay? No gym at all. We just had a door pull-up bar and bands at home, and still lost 30 pounds in 3 months, okay? So, and don't get me wrong, we're doing a lot of lifestyle stuff, a lot of nutrition stuff as well, but in terms of the workout stuff, that's all we're really doing, okay? So emphasizing the fact that, hey, why are these people bitching about getting no results while having full access to a gym, okay? These people clearly didn't have a gym, outside of Randy, for example. So Rebel, great client. I loved working with him. Very good guy. Let's see who else. So Ty Britton is also a group member as well and a former client of mine. He lost 40, let me see here. So he lost 40 pounds over a span of 5 months. Okay, so once again, no gym access. We just had bands, all right? We just had bands and a door pull-up bar and 40 pounds in 5 months. All right, and we also got rid of his low back pain as a bonus as well. Danny Rocco was a great client of mine too. His pictures are actually turned out A+ and phenomenal. I was really proud of him and his transformation. He recently moved from New York to LA and had trouble like adjusting and stuff like that. And he ended up gaining about 25 pounds of extra weight. He also contacted me during the peak of COVID. So we didn't have a gym. I just had him buy bands and a door pull-up bar, and we had a stability ball as well. And dude, his progressions are phenomenal. I would recommend checking out his pictures. They looked like so good. He was such a great client as well. I had a great time getting to know him. And over that 3 to 4 month period, he lost 25 pounds of body fat. Okay, no gym at all. And it all starts with just a good assessment. That's the key. Okay, good assessment, which would obviously lead you to come up with a good hypothesis, which would lead you to have an increased chance of writing out a program that actually works for a person. Because remember, if you don't do like a good assessment, comprehensive assessment, you're relying on dumb luck basically. And you can't come up with the right answer from a false hypothesis, okay? You can if it's from dumb luck, but that's it. And dumb luck never works long term, okay? So you have to have systems, predictable systems in place. Jenny Verdi is also a client of mine and a group member. She made an amazing transformation. We trained together for quite a while. I think it was like 7 or 8 months, and she ended up losing about 30 pounds in that time frame. But more importantly, we got her completely off her type 2 diabetes medication, which she was on for years and didn't like to be on them. But the doctors just kept her on there and didn't give her any behavioral change coaching, any lifestyle coaching, any nutritional coaching. They just kept her on these drugs, which are obviously giving her side effects. But we actually got her off the type 2 diabetes medication pretty quickly, around the 3-month mark. And then obviously she kept losing weight and lost around 30 pounds or so in a 7 or 8 month period and completely transformed her appearance, okay? So this is what true healing is, not stuffing drugs down a patient's throat and symptom managing them to death, basically, okay? This is how you create real change and real health. You become healthy by being healthy and doing what healthy people do. It's super crazy how we lost this understanding. And didn't lose it on purpose, just the medical industry knows this. They just make money off sick people because they wouldn't be able to make money off of you if you are actually healthy. So let's see who else we got going on. So Jared Weidmer, a great client of mine as well, reached out to me. Bob, good to see you. Let me see how much he lost here. I'm just kind of going off random people here. 30 pounds. We trained together for 4 months. So he actually had an in-person trainer as well and couldn't lose any weight with the in-person trainer. Okay, 4 months later, down 30 pounds on our program together. All right. He had a gym. He did have a gym membership. It's kind of a former client of mine, so I'm trying to remember what we've gone over, but he's still a group member. So if you want to ask about his journey, just feel free to reach out. He had stubborn pockets of belly fat he just couldn't get rid of, okay? 4 months later, completely gone. All right, it's not a big deal if you do proper assessments and actually know how to coach people. It's not that big of a mystery. What was I gonna say about him? Yes, okay. He traveled a lot as well. I remember him traveling a lot as well, but it's not a big deal. Once again, if you have good systems in place. I used to travel a lot myself, okay? Having been in India for a few months, China for quite a long time, Japan. I lived in Ukraine, or that Eastern European area, Ukraine and Moldova for 10 years. Traveled, for probably a few months combined around Germany, Austria, and Hungary. Uh, what else? I think a few other ones I just kind of forget off the top of my head. So it's possible. You just need to have systems in place to be able to accommodate for that, okay? Let's see who else we got here. RB, Alhambra, a great client of mine as well. A very good guy. He lost 50 pounds in a span of 8 months. So we're training 8 months together. And in that time frame, he lost around 50 pounds just working out at home. He had some, in the beginning, I think the first 4 or 5 months, we're just doing it with bands. He's another one of my clients that reached out to me during the whole COVID thing. So we didn't have a gym. After I think like 4 or 5 months, he ended up buying some adjustable dumbbells and we incorporated those into the workouts and he ended up losing 50 pounds in 8 months. Okay. So that's how it happens. And you guys, if weight loss is your goal, you have to know that losing body fat is extremely easy. And if you're not losing it on a respectable pace, it's not because you're gaining muscle. This is kind of like something I hear very, very often, but it's just not true most times. Because look, muscle gain, especially after the newbie gain type of phase. So if you've been lifting seriously for, let's say, more than 2 years, I mean, naturally you're looking at putting on and holding on to, like 5 to maybe 8 pounds of muscle. This is presuming you're in your 20s or 30s per year, 5 to 8 pounds of muscle per year. Okay. When you're doing it naturally, don't fall for this stupid BS you see on social media. Like I gained 10 pounds in a month of muscle. No way. You're doing that naturally. Okay. And remember, a lot of these social media fitness influencers, they're on such a long laundry list of drugs to maintain that kind of shredded and dense appearance all year round. Don't be like sad that you don't look these people. Be sorry for these people that they feel they have to take so many drugs just for likes. Okay. It's just kind of like very, very silly. And they're shortening their lifespan quite a bit by doing that. So once you've surpassed your newbie gains part, I mean, you're looking at gaining, just a few pounds of muscle per year, like real muscle. Okay. So let's say you gain 5, let's say you're super genetically gifted and you gain actually 12 pounds of muscle a year. Okay. Which is crazy. Amna, good to see you. Bob, Max, good to see you as well. 12 pounds a year, which is super crazy. Okay. I rarely see those kind of numbers. 12 pounds a year. But you could actually lose around 2 pounds of body fat per week, 1.5 to 2 pounds of body fat per week. And if you're a lot more overweight, you can lose more than that. So 2 pounds, let's say per week times 4, that's 8 pounds per month. Times 10, that's 80, 16. So boom, boom. So that's 96 pounds of body fat lost per year. So 96 pounds of body fat lost per year, 12 pounds of muscle gain. Okay, so take those out, you're doing 80, that means you should be negative 84 pounds. Okay, not staying the same. You hear a lot of people say, oh, the scale isn't changing because I'm losing body fat and I'm gaining muscle, but they kind of look the same. I'm like, sorry, you're actually not gaining muscle and you're not losing body fat. You're plateaued and you look exactly the same. And next time someone says this to you, just take a look at them and they look the same. I'm sorry to say it, but they look the same most of the time. So, so there's one thing to consider. Okay. Ivan Chen, also a group member, lost 25 pounds of body fat. We're training together for 4 months. Venchko lost 20 pounds. We're training together for 3 months. Vince, great client as well. I actually did a podcast with him also. He actually on his own, I believe, was almost 300 pounds at one point and worked his way down to like 200 pounds or 210 or something like that. And then we finished the difference together with about like 20 or 30 pounds. I forget the exact numbers, but he had an amazing story, okay, of overcoming drug addiction. becoming extremely overweight, okay, nearly 300 pounds, and kind of working himself down to, the 200-pound mark. Then we worked together on getting that last bit of remaining body fat, that stubborn body fat that people have a lot of trouble with as well. So great story with him. Juan, great guy as well, no gym. He was just working out at home, lost 20 pounds in 3 months. John Ojales, he lost 28 pounds, okay? He lost 28 pounds. We worked together, I believe, for 4 months. He lost 28 pounds of body fat. And more importantly, we got him completely off his blood pressure medication, which he was on for a very, very long time, but he didn't like the side effects of that medication, okay? So obviously I'm talking about the body fat and the aesthetics part, but no, just this other stuff in the background, which is not as marketable because it's not as like all about aesthetics and looks, is also improving as well, okay? So the medical doctors just kept him on all those drugs without even trying to change his behavior of what's leading to him. And we simply just changed a few lifestyle variables and got him moving around a little bit more and got him off these very, very dangerous and harmful drugs. Remember, not medicine, drugs. Once you start seeing them as drugs, you'll start realizing that's what they are, because that is what they are. And I also did a podcast with him as well, so feel free to check it out. And his story also is he didn't have a gym. Dude, this was just done with bands. With bands, he lost 28 pounds of body fat in 4 months and got off all his blood pressure medication. And I don't believe we did any cardio at all with him, okay? So once again, it goes back to what are these guys in their 20s, 30s, and 40s going to the gym day in and day out and just not even looking impressive at all, investing all that time and not changing. What's going on? So Brenton Carter, also a group member, he has a great story as well. He has a PhD in paleontology. I actually followed him way before he even reached out to me. I love his channel. He has like a really good Instagram channel. I always tell him, like, dude, you need like a TV show. And he goes around hunting for fossils and finding them and then explaining to you like what they are. So he's basically like almost kind of like Bear Grylls, but like more with fossils and kind of history and stuff like that. So I don't know how to explain it right. But very, very interesting channel. He's in this group as well. I would go check out his Instagram page. Very cool page. And he also makes really cool shirts. I have a few of them. I would recommend checking out that site also. And he lost quite a bit of weight on his own. I forget the exact weight he started with, but he was very, very heavy at one point, and he changed his ways. So I think he lost quite a bit of weight on his own. But he got to a point where he looked pretty good, but he had this like stubborn love handles that he couldn't get rid of. So then he reached out to me, and 3 months later, they're completely gone. And he's like very, very flat in the midsection. And in his situation, he didn't have a gym either. So we just worked out at home. He had a few kettlebells and dumbbells at home. We just used those and kind of combined his paleontology hiking thing with that, customized around his needs. And then boom, gone, okay? It's not a mystery, guys. It's not a mystery when you don't rely on dumb luck. So I also did a podcast interview with him, so feel free to check it out in our group. It's posted in this group and also on my radio show, which you can find on Spotify, Podcast, Stitcher, and YouTube as well. It's called Eugene Trufkin Radio, where I interview a bunch of other cool people. So let's see here. Okay, let's go over a little bit more. I'm going to cover just one more person, and then I'll kind of call it a day here, just looking through here and seeing what we got. So also Dre Paul, he's a group member as well, so check out his profile. He lost 40 pounds in 3 to 4 months, okay? Once again, no gym workouts. Gyms are awesome, but don't, a lot of these clients that I'm saying reached out to me during COVID. Keep that in mind too. And I love going to the gym. I go to the gym still. I have a gym actually at home as well. But it's not, don't be dead set on it, okay? Hunter and gatherers stayed in shape their freaking entire existence without a gym membership, without a nutritionist, life coach, doctor, 401k, retirement plan, whatever other bullshit is out there. to help people feel secure and whatever, and spend their whole life doing that. And he lost 40 pounds, okay? And I believe he has 2 or 3 kids, all right? So 2 or 3 kids plus like doing like some startup job type of thing. So hours were crazy, but with the proper assessment and where you know where a person is and what they can do and where they need to go, you could just create a program that works for them and it's no big deal. We didn't do any cardio either, okay? Just did like 4 band workouts and some pull-ups at home. Then once again, what's the deal with these people looking the same day in and day out at the gym? Just don't know what they're doing. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I just wanted to give a shout out to a bunch of clients. I'm hoping to interview a few of them too and include them in this group so you guys can kind of see their journey and where they've gone and maybe kind of relate to them in some way or another and see what you can do in your journey as well. It's awesome to see you guys here. Dan, Ray, David, Emmett, Bob, Tim, Max, Steve, Randy, Jude, Morale, obviously great to see you. It was great coaching you. You're a great client. Mario, Chris, Javier, and everyone else. I see there's quite a bit of people in here today. Thank you for jumping in. Victor as well. You guys are awesome, okay? I appreciate every one of you. Take care.